Welcome to the show, Playing with Food. I'm your host, Liz Corbett. Because I've been playing with food for a really long time, I've got a lot of tips and tricks to share with you. And if you're feeling uninspired, or if you're just plain old domestically challenged, stay right here where it is all about maximum flair with minimal fuss. And on today's show, it's time for breakfast treats. I'm going to be putting together a make-ahead French toast bake. And have you ever made crepes? Well, it's not as hard as you might think. I've got good news for those who are avoiding gluten, and I'm sharing a gluten-free recipe for crepes, and we will talk about some delicious options for serving them. Later on in the show, we're going to talk about one of my favorite beverages, coffee. You do not have to go to the drive-thru or the cafe to get a delicious cup of joe. I'm going to share some tips on how to make your own special brew at home, so let's get started. I'm really excited to show you this gluten-free option. Many people feel like they can't enjoy the nice, yummy bread treats for breakfast. So I have a super fun recipe for you, which has mostly eggs. We're going to make crepes. And crepes are very simply a very thin, flat pancake that is egg-based. There's not a whole lot of flour in it to begin with, but this one has no regular wheat flour at all. This one is going to have something called coconut flour. What we're going to start with, and this is going to go in the blender, which is even easier, we're going to start with eggs, quite a few eggs. This recipe calls for a dozen. I'm going to half that for you right now. So I've got 6 eggs in here, and I'm going to get those going. A lot of protein in this, by the way, with all the eggs. We have 6 eggs, again, because I'm halving this, and the recipe will be on the website. Coconut flour. Now, it's not flour like wheat flour, but it's very finely milled coconut, and it's got that odd little color to it because it's not like the coconut you buy in the store. That's got sweeteners in it. If you're not a fan of coconut flavor, you're really not going to notice this all that much. I'm halving it, so 2 tablespoons of coconut flour. I added a little bit of sugar. When I first tried this, it wasn't very sweet, and I do have a sweet tooth. So we get a little bit of sugar going in there. And this is how I measure without a spoon. I'm guesstimating about 1/8 of a teaspoon of salt. And we're going to do about 1/4 of a teaspoon of vanilla. And I'm just one of those crazy people that just kind of dumps things in without measuring anything. But I've been doing this a long time, and it comes out fine. So that's going right into the blender. I mean, how fun is that? It's super simple. Give it a little whirl. And we're done with the batter. Now, here is the fun part. What you want to do when you're doing your pans for crepes is you want to pick out a pan that the bottom of it is going to be about the size of the crepe that you want, because you're going to put a little bit on and you're going to swirl it around to get to that size. So I'm going to show you how we're doing that. Just a little bit of butter, and this is how I cook, real easy. Leave it right in the wrapper, just go like this. Don't need too much, and that's browning up because it's a fairly high heat. You'll have to kind of play with your particular stovetop and see. Now watch, there's not much going in here. And it's quick, so you do a little bit in the middle, and then you give it a swirl. Really, really paper thin, okay? So that's all you're doing. Almost like you're making a really thin egg omelet. So we're gonna let that hang out for a second. I've got it between maybe low and medium. We're gonna take a little peek. It's not quite ready. We're gonna heat that up just a little bit more. So this is something that you can do ahead of time. You can keep crepes very easily in the fridge if you put a little bit of wax paper between them. I'm going to show you how to do that in just a moment. All right, let's get this a little bit hotter. I wish this was smell-o-vision because it smells really good. It smells a little bit like coconut, but again, it's not a strong flavor. These are really delicate. Just giving it a little peek. Going to turn it up a little bit more. So again, the full recipe calls for a dozen eggs, which is a lot, and only 4 tablespoons of the coconut flour. All right. I'm immune to getting burned, so I'm just going to do this like this. Not how you're supposed to. That's my show, so I'm going to do it the way I want. All right. Now, you might want that a little bit browner on the bottom. That first flip, you want to get it good and toasty on the bottom side because it'll make it hold together for you. and make it flipping a little bit easier. And that was honestly, what, maybe a minute, maybe two, not very long at all. All right, I'm going to turn this up a little more. And when it's done, you're going to flip that, again, really delicate, right onto your plate. And you just keep going in an assembly line. So let's get another one. Not much butter. You could even do coconut oil if you wanted to, if you like that coconut flavor. And it's very, very mild. We're going to pour just a little bit in the center. I got kind of a lot that time. Practice. It takes a little bit of practice. All right, that's going to be a bigger one. All right, so you want to go all the way around. Let it hang out for a minute. Get nice and brown and toasty on the bottom. You could, if you wanted to, make this batter up ahead of time in your blender and pop it right into your fridge overnight. It sets up fine and it won't influence how they come out at all. So if you want to do something ahead of time for breakfast, even better. All right, this one's browning up a little faster. So you see what I mean about how there's not very much going into here. I would say, oh gosh, a couple of tablespoons worth of batter. That's browning up good. And again, it's going to be about, I wouldn't go much bigger than this. It might be hard to flip if it was, oh, this one looks good. You can also tell that it's almost done when you look at the top and it starts to look dry. That's another hint that it's almost time to flip. Just like on pancakes, when the bubbles pop, it's ready. Well, on crepes, when it looks dry, then it's time to flip. That looks beautiful. All right, so let's, ta-da, little off center there. All right, got that nice golden color. And again, I wish you could smell this. So there's no wheat flour in this whatsoever. And what you want to do when you are putting these out on your plate, you can alternate and just do like 2 plates left and right so that they cool in between, or you can do a little bit of wax paper between them because they will stick if you put them together when they're hot, and that won't be fun at all. All right, just throwing things around here. Let's do one more, and then I'll show you some options for what you can do with them. Ooh, look at that. It's okay if the butter gets a little brown. Got special effects here, smoke and mirrors. All right, here we go, a little bit more. Right in the center. That looks just about right. And again, we've got the brown butter going, which adds to the flavor. Really bubbly. Give it a twirl. Wait for it to look a little bit dry in the middle. And we'll move this out of the way. Look at that, see? It's already dry, really fast. This one's going to be crispy. I'm also thinking a little bit bigger of a spatula would be good. All right, this one won't be as pretty. There we go. Okay, so you get the idea. And again, just eggs, coconut flour. We have a little teeny bit of sugar in there, salt and vanilla. There's not much to it. Now I'm going to break my rule and put it next to, but you want to do the wax paper in between. I'm also going to show you real quick some regular crepes for those who don't have to do the gluten-free. And I've got that already mixed up in my jar, and I've had it sitting in my fridge overnight, which helps with the texture. So regular crepes have not so many eggs in it, and I will have this recipe on the website for you. Not so many eggs, a little bit of flour, and it's got milk in it. That one got really bubbly. And so these are the gluten-free ones right here, and these are the regular ones. The gluten-free ones look a little bit yellow because the coconut flour has a little bit of a yellow color to it. All right, this one's super thin. This one might be a challenge. It's getting dry already. And let's see if I can do this in one piece. Fingers crossed. Almost. Tore a little bit in the middle. When you put them in the fridge and they cool off, they're a little bit easier to handle. So, easy, easy, easy. You've got your crepes made. Now, what do you do with them? A couple of great ideas. You can do your crepes sweet, which is my favorite way. You can also do them savory. If you leave the sugar out, you could fill them with something like cheese, mushrooms, peppers. Think of it kind of like a breakfast burrito. Traditionally, they are served sweet, and one of the things that you can put into the center is mascarpone cheese, which is really fun to say, and it basically tastes like sweet cream cheese. It's very, very smooth and very rich, but it has, I believe, half the calories of butter, which is kind of cool. Half the calories or half the fat, so it's a little bit healthier than butter. I have in here some lemon zest, and I will tell you why in just a moment why I picked lemon. You can put this right down. I'll make sure you can see what I'm doing here. And you want to do, I'm going to pick that as my outside. A couple of ways you can do it. You can do some right down the middle. So I've got a little bit of mascarpone. You can do powdered sugar in to sweeten it up if you want. You can leave it as is. I'm going to roll this up. This is one way to do it. All right. And we can plate that up. And here's the best part. You can make your own fruit sauce. So easy. Again, all the recipes are going to be on the website. I have, I think blueberry and lemon are nice together. And it's just half cup of sugar, half cup of water, tablespoon of cornstarch. Put it on the stove, whisk till it thickens. Pop in about a cup of fruit. Look at how beautiful this is. It's thick, it's sweet, but a little bit tart. Oh my gosh, you can do fresh berries, you can even do frozen. Make your own, it is so easy. So we have blueberries there. And now I'm going to show you another way that you can do it, which you may have seen. And that is, and here's the fun part, I'm totally cheating, I have the whipped cream that comes in a can. And we're going to do it like this. Fold it in half, and then we're going to fold it in half again. And I'm going to put it here so you can see, into a nice little neat triangle. Then let's do some of the strawberry that I've already made. And this keeps great in the fridge for a few days, but it's not going to last that long, I can guarantee. This is also nice on ice cream. So same recipe, but we've got strawberries in here. Doesn't that look good? I wish you could smell it. All right. And then a little shot of that bad boy right on top. How's that? So you can go with cream, you can go with ricotta cheese, is also very nice. You could do applesauce, you could do yogurt. I mean, there's just unlimited possibilities of what you can do with these crepes. Just think of them as a blank canvas. I'm going to add a little bit of cinnamon sugar, which I have in a salt shaker. It's pretty obvious it's not pepper, but you can mark it if you need to. A little bit dash of cinnamon sugar. Look how pretty that is. Now, wouldn't that be nice with your coffee in the morning? And how long did that take? Not long at all. So crepes, very easy. Very simple to do because you can do them ahead of time. They keep in the fridge a few days. You can even put them in the freezer if you wrap them well, like I said, and just pull them out when you want to. Let them come to room temperature. You've got all these options for fillings, and they're good to go. You could roll them up. You can even put peanut butter in them if you want to. Great for kids for a handheld snack. I have another recipe for you, which I'm excited to show you. And this one is not gluten-free, but this is a make-ahead recipe, and I like this because, first of all, I love French toast. This is great because you can do this ahead of time. And there's a couple of different ways to do it. First thing that you want to do is you want to select a baguette or some kind of a firm Italian bread, basically any kind of a small diameter, you know, the long breads like you see in the grocery store that come in the bags, and they can be a little bit stale, which is even better. So if you have something you forgot to get to, it's fine if it's a little stale. You want to cut it to fit the width of your pan, and I'm going to do an 8x8 pan right here. And you want to cut it lengthwise, like so. So we're going to put this in the bottom, and this is kind of like playing Jenga. You want it cut to fit. So I've got a little space in the middle here, and I'm just going to fill that up real quick with one of these. This kind of resembles bread pudding. It all depends on how long you let all the goodies soak in. So look at that. So that's all filled up. You want bread to cover the whole bottom of your pan. We're going to do a little bit of soft butter. Butter is always great. By the way, I never use margarine. always butter because it's a real food product. So you want to butter those. And into the bowl we have 3 eggs. We've got 2 cups of milk. You could use almond milk if you wanted to go with no dairy, and then you would skip the butter. We've got 1. Look at that, perfect. 2. And we have orange juice. And we have a little bit of orange zest, which is the outside of your orange. Just a little bit of fine in there. So basically what you are doing is you are mixing up this egg and milk liquid that's going to go into your bread. Pour that in there. Let it soak for at least, see how it's floating? It's supposed to do that. Let it soak for at least 30 minutes. Overnight is fine as well. It will come out a little bit softer, more like a bread pudding. If you do it for about 30 minutes, it's going to come out looking like this. Now, when it first comes out of the oven, it's a real showstopper. It's about this high, and then it deflates a little bit, but it still tastes just as good. And the best way to serve that is warm, right out of the oven, and with maple syrup. Let's share a plate. How about right here? And a little dash of powdered sugar. Now, doesn't that look fabulous? Isn't this something you'd want to try? Now that was really, really easy, and I hope you try these, and I would love to hear from you if you do. To connect with me and to find the recipes for today's show, visit playingwithfood.tv. During this short break coming up, we're going to hear more about going gluten-free. And when we come back, join me at the table where I'm going to share some tips about fancy coffee drinks made right at home. We'll be right back. Hi, I'm Liz Corbett, and I am the host of the television show Playing with Food. I am this morning at ShopRite of Enfield, Miller Farms Family Market, and we're going to talk about bread. And it's sadly something that some people cannot enjoy, things that have wheat and gluten in them. And I am joined by someone here who's going to help me talk about why and what we can do instead so that we can still enjoy some of those things. I am joined by Michelle Mattia, and she is the registered dietitian here at ShopRite. And I want people to know, first of all, what is gluten? There's a lot of talk about it these days. So if you could just clear that up for us specifically, what is gluten?
There's a lot of confusion, and gluten is really just a simple term for the protein that's in a lot of breads and cereals and cookies and baked goods, things like that. Yep. Gluten's job is to give it that rise and that soft fluffiness. So a lot of the gluten-free alternatives are a lot thicker, or they're a lot thinner and denser, and they don't have that same mouthfeel. Yeah. So gluten is very important in our baked goods.
And can you tell us what other food items would contain gluten? The obvious is wheat and bread and things like that, but what other food items have gluten in them?
Right. The most obvious is all of those comfort foods, all the pastas and breads and bread products and anything really with flour, wheat flour, all-purpose flour in them. And then there's some that are much less obvious, and that could be anything from soy sauce, marinades, salad dressings, lunch meat. So the list is really extensive of foods that do contain gluten.
It really is in your best interest to check all the labels then on everything, because it could be hiding in some of those things.
Yes, and check them often because recipes do change with these products.
Okay, so it's not just the bread and the wheats and those things. No. Check everything out. Any of the other starch items that have the gluten in them that we might not normally think of?
Most that we mentioned, I mean, they say rice is safe too, but you have to look at your rice. If it's a rice blender, rice peel-off, it could have some orzo. So it's not clean-cut black and white. Okay. Most foods do have wheat or gluten in them in some form, so you want to look for even the smallest amounts. Just read the label.
Excellent. For those people who truly cannot have gluten, there's something called celiac disease. And can you just tell us more about that? What does that mean?
Sure. In short, celiac disease is really an autoimmune digestive disorder where the body actually attacks itself when you eat any foods with gluten in them. So it can bring on another host of issues like nutritional deficiencies. So it really is serious, and somebody that has celiac disease has to eat gluten-free. It's the only treatment.
Now, what are some of the options for those people who truly cannot have items that have gluten in them? What kind of things, if they really want the breads or the starches, what are some
Right.
things that they can have instead?
Well, the beautiful thing is that the gluten-free industry has come a long way in the last 5 to 10 years. So you can find a lot of these yummy baked goods with the gluten alternatives in them.
Right.
So those things that are appropriate are any kind of rice product, any kind of gluten-free certified oat product,
Okay.
millet, amaranth, quinoa, any of those things can be appropriate. So those foods, you will find those
That's
ingredients
perfect.
in
So
them.
people that have that don't have to give up those items. They've got some other substitutions instead.
Exactly.
That's great, and that's good news.
It is.
So if someone has recently been diagnosed with celiac disease, they just have to do a little research and figure out what those things are that they can have instead.
Right.
Some people don't necessarily have the celiac disease, but they have found that eliminating wheat or gluten from their diet is good for them. What are some of the benefits of doing that just for your own health benefits, and what might be some of the effects of doing that in a positive way?
Well, it is a controversial topic because it's kind of anecdotal that they feel better.
Yeah.
So when people are taking out a lot of the more highly processed foods, they tend to feel better anyway,
Yes.
and they're replacing those foods with fruits and vegetables
Right.
and other whole grains, and they have a much cleaner diet. So sometimes people oftentimes feel a little bit healthier once their diet becomes a little bit cleaner. So that would be one benefit. Yeah.
What might be the easiest thing that they could use in their meal instead?
Generally speaking, rice and beans are an easy substitute because they're generally gluten-free, but you do want to make sure that there's no cross-contamination. So looking for a product that does say certified gluten-free can
Okay.
be a great peace of mind to see that.
Yes.
And there's so many other great products, lentils and quinoa and buckwheat, and the list goes on and on.
Yeah.
So if you're feeling deprived, see somebody that can actually guide you. That's a professional.
So people out there who can't have bread, don't be sad. There's a lot of good options out there for you. And I want to thank Michelle here at ShopRite for her time and for giving us some valuable information about this topic. So thank you very much. We appreciate
Thank you for
it.
having me.
Back to Playing with Food. I'm your host, Liz Corbett. We've been talking about breakfast treats. So to me, it's only natural that we chat about one of my favorite beverages, coffee. If you are a coffee drinker, maybe you'd like to try something new. So let's talk about some delicious options. Many people go to the drive-thru in the morning. I do once in a while as a treat. Actually, I go in because I like to fix it myself. But you can fix some really yummy coffees at home easily. And I want to show you a couple of options that you may not already do. One of those is putting coffee into something that is called a French press. This is a beautiful way to fix your coffee because the water isn't going through the grounds quickly. They're actually soaking in the grounds for 4 minutes. That's how I do it. There's kind of a debate on what's the perfect amount of time. But I have in here 4 scoops, because I like it strong, 4 scoops of really dark roast coffee, like a French roast or an Italian roast. And then I'm putting in boiling hot water right up to here. This little plunger, which this is the part that has your sieve or your filter type device, it's just going to sit on top here, and then I literally set a timer for 4 minutes. I also wrap it up, especially if it's in the winter and it's chilly, I wrap it up in a little towel. You can also get the real cute little covers that go on these, which I want, by the way, P.S. And you let it hang out for 4 minutes. When those 4 minutes are up, then you're going to very slowly press on the plunger, and it's going to push the grounds all the way down to the bottom. The slower the better. You got to be patient when you're waiting for this coffee. I do this first thing so that I have plenty of time to drink it. All right, so that's all the way down to the bottom. And then the little plunger in there is going to be like a filter, and it's going to keep your grounds out of your coffee. This is like the best moment ever in the morning, that first little pour. I don't know if you see the steam. All right, and I have this in my special glass, and I want the camera to get a close-up of this because I personally think this is hilarious. This is my motto when I'm having that first cup of coffee in the morning. Can you see that? These are instructions for my darling husband or anyone else if they're at my house early in the morning, okay? And I made this myself, so if you want to find out why, contact me on my website and I can show you how. So the French press is one lovely way to do your coffee. Another one is espresso. Now maybe you've only gone to a cafe or a bistro to get your espresso coffee. You can find these adorable little espresso makers. This one is really teeny, and I'll just give you a real quick show and tell on how that goes. The bottom screws off, and it's got this itty bitty little filter, which is not going to come out. Here we go. All right, see how cute that is? All right, grounds go in there, that goes in, water goes in here, screws on top, and your water's in the bottom, and you can't have it above the little steamy thing there. Basically, the steam forces it up and out and into your coffee pot. Strong, strong coffee, but my theory is if it's really good quality coffee, then it's okay to drink it really strong and with nothing else in it. And I have some really random but fun facts for you about coffee, and I want to share them. And I'm actually just going to tell you what they are because I think they're perfect. When we talked about the dark roast, I don't know if you know, but a light roast actually has more caffeine than a dark roast. The other thing that I think we should think about adopting for couples is that Turkish husbands were once required to be able to provide their wives with coffee always. That was one of the requirements for when they were going to get married. So I think that's something that we might want to look into. That would be important for me. Also, a lethal dose of coffee, I'm just throwing these at you, a lethal dose of cups of coffee is roughly about 100 cups. And that's something that you don't want to do. Either way, it's delicious, it's wonderful, it's good with breakfast. All of these treats you saw today were really easy, and I hope you're going to try some of these new breakfast treats. It's not really so hard, and you and your family can enjoy adding these to your morning or any time of day. I'm going to be adding more gluten-free recipes to other shows, and I'd love to hear from you. Let me know if you tried the new coffee drink, and I'm really excited about adding espresso to my morning at home. For you tea drinkers, I won't forget you. We'll feature that on one of my future episodes. For today's recipes or to connect with me, go to playingwithfood.tv. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time on Playing with Food.